This is Simon Kaufman coming to you from Soviet Seattle in the occupied territories of Communist Washington. Washington just passed the largest tax increase in Washington state history. The legislature increased the tax burden on the citizens by adding $9.3 billion in new taxes. They increased the gas tax by 6 cents a gallon because stand-up comedians driving to gigs were making so much money anyhow. They added a 12-cent increase on diesel fuel per gallon because our entire economy depends on diesel fuel. And why not make prices go up everywhere? They increased taxes on energy so the peasants can pay more to heat their homes. They increased school spending by 7%, which will lead to a 7% increase in children not knowing how to mathematically calculate 7%. The state spends more than they ever have on education, but only 51% of Washington students are proficient in English, 43% are proficient in science, and 61% of Washington state students are failing in math. Sure, 61% are failing at math, but at least that 61% knows how to 69. They increased car registration fees, tire disposal fees, the sound transit tax, 50% more for state park discovery pass fees. They raised the tax on Airbnb, VRBO, and short-term rentals, doubled the rental car tax rate, which also applies on peer-to-peer car sharing, increased the fishing and hunting licenses, and placed an 11% tax on guns and ammo, because when you hear about this, you will want to revolt. But if you die in the revolt, they also increased the estate rate on the death tax. They also added several sin taxes. They added a nicotine tax to Zyn packets, which would technically be a sin tax, Zyn tax, sin tax. There's a 10-cent bottle tax per container, so for every 12-pack you buy, that's an extra $1.20. Or if you were taught math by the Washington School District, I don't know how much that's going to be. They increased liquor license fees by 50%, including banquet permit fees for weddings and events. And they added a new ticket fee for sporting events and concerts because there should be no joy until the empire has achieved communist supremacy. They passed a bill to generate resources to combat domestic violence by adding a tax to online dating services. I'm not sure how you combat domestic violence, but taking more money from families who have no money could make a dent in someone's forehead. Washington will begin taxing electric vehicles, but only Teslas out of bitter jealousy of Elon Musk, because 2 years ago when they were pushing electric vehicles on all of us to save the planet Earth, well, apparently that doesn't matter anymore. They're raising the cap on property taxes from 1% to 3%. They're adding a 10% tax on duty-free products. You know, the products that aren't supposed to be taxed. Since they all told us Trump's tariffs on foreign goods are evil, they swooped in to save the day by adding a 10% tariff on foreign products. They are raising B&O tax on gross proceeds, not after-tax business expenses, but gross expenses. So if a company isn't profitable and makes no money, now you can make more no money. This will obviously make everything in Washington more expensive, but, you know, it's just everything. They raised the tax rate on service businesses. They added the retail sales tax to more services such as advertising, security, and temp staffing. A tax on operators of self-storage units that will simply pass along that to the consumers. They raised the capital gains tax, added taxes on private health insurance, and added a levy on tech companies in the state, and added additional taxes on cell phones, smartwatches, and other devices. So, where are some of the important places your tax dollars go? Well, they approved money for laser hair removal for transgender prison inmates. Now, I support this, because I think I speak for all Americans when I say nobody wants to a hairy butthole, especially if you just traded a carton of cigarettes for it. They passed $5.2 billion to remove culverts that would improve fish passage and restore salmon habitats, as we now have 7 million salmon. The $5.2 billion will be roughly $742.86 spent per fish. They passed Bill 1286, which takes away parental notification rights. That means that schools are not required to tell parents anymore when schools provide medical or mental health services such as therapy, medical procedures, abortions, STI services, birth control, or gender-affirming services, and students can even leave campus to receive these treatments and parents don't have to be notified. Hi, Mrs. Johnson. Yeah, this is Billy's dad. He had a penis this morning. Do you know where that went? These tax increases were signed into law by Washington State Governor Beelzebub Ferguson. We first reached out to Beelzebub Ferguson for a comment, but he was hanging upside down in a cave. So, here's a clip from his recent press conference.